I'm sitting with Christopher Titmuss at the shadow of Arunachala, South India, and around us there are celebrations for a local festival. I'd like to ask you some questions for Blueprints for Awakening. These questions are designed to unfold and explain your teachings, but are asked in the context of the teachings of Ramana Maharshi, which reflects the ancient Indian wisdom. There is the fundamental question, who am I? Who are you?
A small extra in the scheme of things.
Would you like to unfold that a bit?
It's a phenomena of this appearance of I. Who am I? And then there is a movement, just as I talk to you, and the feeling, the sense of I, rather easily lands somewhere. So I say it's a little extra, not of any great profound significance. It lands at the moment in the voice. I am talking to you. I am responding as best I can to your rather profound question. It lands in the sense of the form of the body, sitting here on the throne, as I call it, with the form of the posture. So the I makes a little shift in the moment, and then I land with the body. In the context of Ramana's teachings, and more importantly from the place of awareness and exploration, the voice doesn't claim the I. The voice doesn't say, I am speaking. The I lands. The body doesn't say, I am sitting here. The I says, I am sitting here. So this rather extraordinary phenomena of the I likes to land. Feelings, thoughts, body, speech, activity, etc. What's interesting is when it has nowhere to land. This gives the whisper of the best. Okay.
Okay. Many seekers are looking for enlightenment as if it is an experience. What is enlightenment?
I'll take the response in three parts. The word. So forgive me for a little bit of analysis. Secondly, its application. And thirdly, how this poor Wara understands it. The word enlightenment is not found in Indian Sanskrit Pali texts. Mistranslation, big time. The word enlightenment is a Western concept. This is the analysis here. It refers to a shift in Western thought around 2 to 3 centuries ago, in which the view of the world changed from a believer in the Supreme God, the Creator, who dispensed reward and punishment for human behavior and human beliefs. And gradually, through the development of science, the insights of scientists, the questioning of belief, a shift began to take place. And that shift was to the use and application of thought, of reason, as being the vehicle to know reality. When that began to take place, along with the intensification of scientific inquiry, industrialization, and the supremacy of the belief in reason and thought, we call that enlightenment. So in the following century, bit of a history lesson, forgive me, in the following century, the English, or around that time, came here with the usual English arrogance to accompany it, and armed either with the Bible, therefore the old belief system, God the Creator and the Punisher, or with scientific knowledge and the ideas of progress, scientific and economic, and the theory of evolution, implanted that view here in India. And that blocked the inquiry, the vichara, the inquiry into 5,000 years of exploration here in India. When translations took place, Sanskrit, Pali, particularly, of course Chinese and Tibetan as well, the outcome of those translations really meant that some English words were applied. So, coming back now to your question, a little bit of wandering, but why not?
Okay.
So, what took place as the outcome of that was, a view got established, Buddha's enlightenment, Ramana Maharshi's enlightenment, and the impression that is given is that a human being can have, and I would agree with this, can have a once and for all life-changing experience in which the old, the problematic, the karma, the dispositions is irrevocably finished, silenced, gone. And something new absolutely, utterly emerges. And the Western word enlightenment was applied there. I think it's riddled with difficulty. It's riddled with difficulty, to come to your question and therefore the second, third point. It feeds into the seeker the idea that for some, if I keep on seeking, at some point some mind-blowing enlightenment will happen to me, and it will be a night and day change. And simply because Ramana had his, in which all the self never landed with the body, and therefore there was no death, the Buddha had his night of great awakening. Therefore, the seeker may think this is what I should work towards, which is therefore called practice, or I shouldn't work towards, but I should wait for grace. I've never met her. And then grace will come, and then that will change my life. There. I would prefer we drop the word enlightenment. It's a heavily charged buzzword. Some people have told me they are enlightened. I have the privilege of teaching here annually since this is my 35th year. So all is based on listening to experiences. Some people have told me they are enlightened. They've had a great enlightenment experience, either on retreat or an inquiry with me or with other teachers or in places. And when I've listened to the person, and sometimes I've felt conceit and arrogance and pride, and sometimes, not very often, but I've said, pity you ever had this experience. There are others who will say, Christopher, I've never had such an experience at all. And her or his life generates, coming to the third part now, what I would call a realized and awakened life. It manifests and shows itself, never perfectly, because I think the idea of perfection is nuts. That it shows itself in a great sense of freedom of being. Real, authentic, daily freedom of being. A deep, natural and rather inexhaustible happiness. Bucket loads of love and a lot of clarity about this so-called world that we live in. And it's a very important and in the response to your important question. When there is stuff for an awakened being arising, if there is, which helps to dissolve immediately the idea of perfection. When the dark cloud wanders across the sky, the light of the sun, let us say, a characteristic of a human being who is awake and who knows love and joy and intimacy and freedom of being is she or he can't help themselves but attend to that within themselves which needs attending to. So if there's unresolved problematic areas, blame, negativity, doubt, confusion, conceit, fear, it can't be rationalized. It can't be justified, liberated, a mukti can do whatever he or she likes. It can't get that rationalization. The interest is, what's this about? What needs to be attended to as an expression of one's freedom to look at oneself?
You made the expression freedom of being.
Yeah.
I liked it very much. Could you say something more about freedom of being?
Yes, sure. Today we're on the rooftop here in Tiruvannamalai, and in part of the rhythm of the day we have some Dharma inquiry, Dharma Vichara. So we offer a number of groups. So the exploration of my group today with myself was on the theme of how real is the world, or is the world real? And it's vitally important that in our communication with the world, we keep out of the philosophizing, the theory. So sometimes when we look at the world, sight, sound, smells, taste and touch, when it has a really big impact on us, there's a drama in life. The world seems very, very real. And we can live in that world. The idea of that there is one world. Show me the evidence. So sometimes we live in a world and there's some drama going on. And the self, the I, can feel somewhat imprisoned in the drama. Absence of freedom of being. Sometimes in the world can seem rather unreal. A shift of consciousness, the dropping of a tablet, the smoking of some dope, an uncertainty, what's my projection, what's out there. So the idea of the world, real and unreal and somewhere in between, goes on for all of us. In reference to freedom of being, there is a sense, a very deep sense, that the world or the worlds that you and I inhabit, our own little world sometimes, the bigger world, the world of satsang, the world of the group, the world of the two lovers, the world of our species. Freedom of being does not feel nor think to be defined or limited by any of them. And therefore the freedom of the being is immeasurable. It's not stuck in any of these worlds that we move in and out of in the flow of our life. That's what I'm referring to.
So would it be words like spontaneous, innocent, present? Perhaps a bit kiddish.
About what?
A bit kiddish, a bit element of a little child.
It would feel rather restrictive.
Those words.
Yeah. In a way.
Okay.
I have a sense and appreciation, but it feels rather restrictive. If I make freedom of being, let's just say, in the spontaneous there, which certainly the sense of that can happen, but sometimes, as a human being, I'm not spontaneous. Sometimes I find it necessary in myself to give application of thought to an activity, to put it together, to make it happen, with the cooperation of others. Nothing spontaneous about it. I mean, this roof didn't arise spontaneously, and these mats, and the generosity of people there. With presence, which has become a buzzword in these circles. And the language of there is only the now, or a little bit more inflation, the eternal now. or this is it. And the past is, what's the past? Unreal. And the future is unreal. And this is it. When I hear this voice, to me it sounds like complete imprisonment. It's a contemporary New Age ideology to me. I'm interested in freedom of being, not imprisoning myself into the moment and making a substance out of it. And therefore, the freedom, hopefully with some clarity and wisdom, to acknowledge past, not to enter into a state of denial, and to acknowledge in the conventions and constructs some organization and planning and steps called future. But not to idolize one way or the other. And therefore, the freedom of the being allows, with its great generosity, the natural unfoldment of time, which when looked at deeply, shall we call it, clearly, it's timeless. So anything which has the slight stink or sweet perfume of spontaneous being presence, innocence, just feels a little tight.
Okay.
Nicely tight, but tight.
Okay, very beautiful. Thank you. Are there any qualifications for enlightenment? Is practice necessary? And if yes, what form do you advise?
Are there any qualifications for enlightenment? What was the next?
Is practice necessary?
Is practice necessary? Anyway, two questions in two different fields here, but step by step. Here. Can I reverse the question? Is that okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Is practice necessary?
Is practice necessary? I'll put the teacher's hat on here firmly. A little bit of background here. I made the overland journey to India in '67 and have delightful and very fond memories of that overland journey, buses and trains and rickshaws and hitching and walking, you name it. And enormous, and still have, enormous love of Islamic culture and Arab people. They were always able to distinguish between the English citizen and the English government. Thank God. Allah is merciful. And in coming into it, and then I spent around 10 years, till 77, here in the East. 6 of those years as a Buddhist monk, with the privilege of 2 wonderful and remarkable teachers. To some degree, both teachers in a certain way addressed. So with one teacher, Ajahn Damodaro, practice, patipat, the Pali word. In his monastery, there were probably 80 to 100 huts, more or less in a semicircle, and the nuns were on the other side of the Dharma hall. He discouraged us from practicing inside our huts because he didn't trust us. So we practiced on the little veranda, like the veranda I have outside the room there. And every afternoon we did slow circle walking meditation. So the day started at 4 a.m. and he would come in and give the evening Dharma talk. And it was practice. Look at life, look at your existence, look at this whole I, me, and my world, and practice this to see through it all. Practice, practice, practice. And incidentally, we have all these middle-class bourgeois comforts, you know, the cushions to sit on. In the monastery, I would say, this is for wimps. This is not for practitioners. We had the mat on the floor, and here we're rather polite. It's a rare Western teacher that will speak more than an hour. Usually they're 40 minutes to the hour. There's no concept of that in Thailand here. Teacher would come in every evening, 365 days a year, 24/7, give the evening talk. I couldn't even speak, I'm typical Englishman, far too lazy to learn another language. But I would have to attend and just sit there, not allowed to stretch the feet out in front. If the soles of the feet are seen, it's regarded as being rather rude or rather dirty. A little bit like wearing a hat inside a Catholic church. And one never knew how long the good man would talk. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, midnight, 1 o'clock, mosquitoes by the billion, sitting there, etc. Hard school practice there. One learnt a little bit about letting go, a little bit about pain and discomfort in the body, a little bit about watching one's own mind, especially, a little bit about practice in this rather hard school there. And I would not recommend it, etc. And I would certainly not impose it on my students. What I would say is, in quick response, there are those who identify with practice. The self is wrapped around practice. The I and the me and the my is caught up in practice. The practice, instead of being a force for liberation, becomes the new imprisonment. Better to drop it. Trapped in practice, practice, practice. The vulnerable edge in the Buddhist tradition. Very. There are those who are equally foolish, equally unclear. And they will say, practice is the doer, is effort, is trying to get somewhere, and if you're sitting on the cushion, you're trying to get somewhere to get something. And you can't get to that which you already are. It's spouted out around here and other places in the world with an alarming frequency. And those that do, they've memorized all this. They've learned it from others there. They believe it. But one doesn't feel their authority. One just feels it's a set of ideas, mental constructions. Clinging to practice is severely problematic. Rejection of practice is equally problematic. Qualifications I tend to associate in other areas. So with the other teacher, Ajahn Buddhadasa, a legend in Thailand. In my year in the forest with him, he never mentioned the word practice to me. He was not interested in any, with myself, form of development. No. He taught emptiness through the dialogue, through the exchanges. So in that case, I wasn't, as it were, in the world of practice like I was in the other monastery. It was in the meeting and in the encounter. And therefore, the metaphor of the path of progress, of development from here to there, was kind of cast aside. We have to be true to our experience. If the voice inside says, I really need some real good practice, that's what the voice says. Follow it. If the person says, I'm so familiar with practice, I've done so much, drop the idea, drop the whole metaphorical language of the path, the way, the goal. Drop the idea of being the seeker, pursuing the sought. Just empty oneself out of it completely there. And therefore to bringing another receptivity. Now, maybe out of that emergence, some natural authority comes. To be clear, the freedom of being, to let love manifest it, manifest itself. Let others decide if there is authority. Let others decide if one is qualified to speak from one's experience. Others will sense. We don't have to decide ourselves.
Ramana said self-inquiry is the most direct route to realizing the self. What do you say about self-inquiry and how to conduct self-inquiry?
Yeah. It's one of the great aspects of Ramana's teachings, and to his everlasting credit, he is a master of self-inquiry. The word self, language, experience. Word self in the Sanskrit has two meanings. One is ahamkara, and dharma vichara, atma vichara, is the inquiry into ahamkara, which means essentially the I-making activity. So when you or I am really thinking about this, I am wondering who I am. I am wondering what's this bundle of aggregates is all about. When I start questioning all of that, which may for some include the emotional psychological processes, one's personal history, the therapeutic approach, it's atma vichara, it's self-inquiry, no question of that. But there's a self-inquiry with a lot of personal story, me and my relationship to myself or to my mother and father or brothers and sisters, the dynamics. Then there's a self-inquiry which has no personal story to it, like I described. That self-inquiry is, of course, the one that Ramana emphasizes, rightly so. And in that, it's the looking at the I-making activity. What do I get involved in? What do I get caught up in? What do I land on? Like I said earlier, body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, ideas, states of mind, seeking, whatever. Where do I go? And to see that wherever the I lands, this is the inquiry and the path of the inquiry, that which it lands upon, and this is the key, is not me, not myself, not who I am. So the ignorance, the ajnani, the one who is in ignorance, the one who is not realizing, not knowing, lands upon, and that which it lands upon becomes oneself. If I land upon the body, then I am sitting here. The I can't sit. But it identifies with this here, and it says, I am sitting here. I am growing old. My hair was a different colour 20 or 30 years ago. I did nothing contribute. Your beard, I'm sure, is getting a little... the salt will be overtaking the pepper soon. See, there. Naturally organic, but the eye can land and say, I am growing older. Dharma inquiry to see that which it lands on, the self lands on, is not I. That beard on you is not you, this white hair is not me, this form is not me. That which, so the feelings and the emotions and the thoughts, I can look at it. I'm talking to you about my experiences. I'm talking to you about how I feel, or my perceptions of things, or the memory. So that which the I lands on is not I. When it's not landing in a grasping way, there, liberation starts to open up. So Ramana points out, it's not necessary for inquiry into the Atman. Not necessary. It takes care of itself. When I know that which I am not, immediately I know who I am. And for that, a different word is used. He used the word Atman. And when I don't know, then I'll be caught up in imagining and believing that who I am is this body, are these feelings, are these thoughts, is this consciousness, this idea, these views, this is who I am. When I know what I am not, then in the same moment I know who I am. This is Dhamma Vichara.
So are you suggesting
that it's to inquire who you're not, which reveals who you really are?
Yes. Yes, to take a real interest. The delicacy, this is where meditations and reflections and exchange comes in. If the sensitivity and the quiet interest is there, it gets clearer. If it has a tone of rejection in it, it will be detachment. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not my thoughts. There will be an aggression. One has to look at the aggressor then, the reactor, the one who is trying to be detached from. And that would lose the sensitivity to heart, mind and body. We're close to it, unbelievably. And we're so close to it, and to be respectful and caring and supportive, and know this is not myself, this is not who I am. With love and awareness, not with any, I'm not the body. This is not wisdom, this is reaction. Therefore I say it's a sensitive inquiry.
When Ramana was asked,
Yeah.
when will the realization of the self be gained? He replied, when the world, which is what is seen, has been removed, there will be realization of the self, which is the seer. What is the true understanding of the world, and how to remove the world?
Oh, Ramana, you do come out with some one-liners. To make it extremely as clear as I can. Ramana died in 1950. This is 2009. It would be a sweet happiness if we could, you and I could walk out off the rooftop here, take the few-minute walk over to the ashram and say, hey, Ramana, what do you mean by that? We can't. And it would be rather foolish of myself to endeavour to give some commentary there. So may not answer the question, but I'll adjust. There is an impression given that there is a world which is something, and it has substance to it. And somehow or other, it's immediately in front of us. This is the world. No, it's not. That's the view. And rather than looking at it in that substantial, almost eternal way, it just goes on, and I jump into it, and I'm thrown out of it. Which is, common enough view. The movement of change is precious and rather liberating. And what I mean by that is, the moment which just preceded this moment of you and I communicating, that moment with that world arose, it stayed rather briefly, it's gone. And in its departure, it gave rise, like the wave on the ocean, to this current world, called you and me talking with your lovely crew. And in this world, which all is made up, brought together by all the things that you and I can't even see or hear. You think of everything that made it possible for this little world that you and I have together today. So the world just comes and it goes. I don't have to destroy the world. I don't have to end the world. It's quietly, easily enough ending from one moment to the next without me. So if I know that in the best sense of the yani, the no ring, well, it's no problem. It's just unfolding itself. And I don't have this incredible task and responsibility of trying to end this world in order for realization. The world is ending itself every moment. No problem. So that's the view that I would take.
And this next question kind of follows on with that.
Yes, please do.
It has been suggested that the mind must be destroyed for liberation to occur.
Oh.
Do you have a mind, and how to destroy the mind?
My immediate response. It's true, it has been suggested. It's been suggested frequently. And the only place that suggestion could come from is the mind. It doesn't come from a tree, it doesn't come from this leg. It comes from a mind. And it may have been spoken, or it may have been written. So the mind is saying, well, human beings are marvelous at the most eccentric form of thinking. We're really strange creatures. What has happened in the East, and forgive the generalizations because there are numerous to deny the rule, is the mind and the specifics of it, often called thought, has been the dumping ground for all the problems. We've made the mind the problem. The mind doesn't have an idea, it's the problem. We've made the mind the problem. So naturally enough, when there's a problem, the view arises out of the problem to destroy, to get rid of. thought is the problem. All thought is corrupt. Your mind gets in your way. Your mind stops knowing who you are. Your mind inhibits you from liberation. The mind manufactures these views left, right and centre. It's a rather strange position to be in. And then we have the audacity to go around and tell, oh, the mind is the problem, etc., etc. Is it? Is it? Is the arising of some thoughts, let us say, about, we have an hour or so together, about, might need some lunch later on, about yesterday, is the arising of a thought such a problem? Where is all this anti-thought ideology coming from? Other than a mind talking about the mind. Well, if I am not going to give the mind authority, if I'm not going to give the mind that kind of authority, I'm hardly going to say, destroy your mind, get rid of your mind. I'm not giving the mind authority. So I'm not giving that authority either. So I would say the mind is no problem. Thought is not a problem. Freedom of being allows the arising of thought as part of freedom of being. It allows for the arising of ideas and feelings and change. One is a free human being, not a free human being and destroy the mind. Some people who say that, perhaps their mind is a problem. To look at it. But others of us have a very easy, relaxed, comfortable relationship with the mind. Do not see it as a division against or stopping anything. It reflects it. It confirms something extraordinary. It's no problem.
So just now you were talking about your early years in the East.
Yeah.
And you were telling us that you spent quite a few years in substantial practice,
Yeah.
which was perhaps with the intention to do something with your mind, to reduce the activity of your mind, to come to no mind.
A little bit of background. Before ordination, I'd been on the road for 3 years. And prior to that, I travelled around Europe. So I'd probably hitched around 30 countries. As far as I can recall, because sometimes one likes to rewrite history, especially one's own. But as far as I can recall, the sense and the feeling at the time was, I've had the delight and the challenge of travelling around parts of the world, Europe, Asia. And now I want to travel around the inner world. What's the inner world? Is it as big a universe, as big a world as the outer one? What's going to help facilitate that, make that happen? And of course, by then I was already read a lot of some Buddhist books, of course, and love the teachings that were in the tradition there. I love the Buddha's teachings on change, on liberation, on letting go, and working with the inner life. So I can't recall any deliberate intentionality. I didn't ordain because I was confused. I didn't ordain because I was unhappy. I didn't ordain because I felt I had problems to work out, or I was a guy in my mid-20s, pretty free and easy, and loved life. Didn't have any complaints about myself or others, but just knew there was a lot more to exploration of life than getting out of the narrowly defined English culture and opening up my kind of cultural horizons like we are doing right now there, to opening them up further. And I suppose if there was any intentionality, it was looking into the whole inner field of experience and exploring that in a way as a kind of statement of freedom, in a way. Free to explore what this is. And that was certainly an influential factor over the years. And it still goes on. Suddenly stopped and set a limit to the exploration.
I mean, that's very easy to understand, of course, what you're saying. I mean, but is it not true that a lot of Buddhists who perhaps don't understand as widely as you understand are looking for achieving no mind, whatever that means?
The actual construct, no mind, is almost exclusively Zen. I don't recall hearing it from my teachers as such. So the Zen tradition has this lovely cutting edge there. So the no mind statement, it's such an insult to the carefully educated, cultivated Western mind. I think it's brilliant usage, frankly. You know, I described speaking at Oxford University some years ago. It was only a quip with a little seriousness. And I said something like, the university is essentially an ego-making factory. And I got a letter, a very irate letter from a professor at Oxford. He said, "Who the hell do you think you are? I came to listen to a public talk on Buddhism. I didn't come here to be told I was in an ego-making factory." And etc. And like any other world, the world of the Buddhists, and I don't call myself a Buddhist, I have no appetite for labels, so I didn't want to get rid of one called Catholic upbringing and then take up another, so I keep away from the labels. But for some, having known plenty of Buddhists, known plenty of Buddhist monks and nuns, small voice in the Buddhist tradition, etc., an intimacy of connection with the tradition. That for some, the path and the goal and the language of the goal does vary quite a lot. For some, it might be the endeavor to realize no mind. The koan is an attempt to blow the mind away. Just can't answer the limitation of the mind. It just is useless there. And sometimes a little bit of humor, the very famous koan of what is the sound of one hand clapping. And one friend emailed the answer, very quiet. Something really little humor, you think. So sometimes the koan is used to realize no mind. The mind just can't answer things. You know, it breaks out. And it's a very powerful and precious resource. Other Buddhists might be wanting to realize the unconditioned, to realize nirvana, to discover the ultimate truth, to realize one's Buddha nature. And the concept as the end, for some, is valuable because it gives a little sense of direction. Even the finger pointing to moon is the common one. Ah, there is a moon, and the finger points too. But not all will use a large concept at the end for their practice. And as the Buddha pointed out, if one does engage in practice, including inquiry, fully, and exploration, he says, just as a log in the river, if it doesn't get washed up on the bank of self and other, one side of the bank or the other, doesn't get washed up, it naturally would flow to the ocean. The ocean, for some, does not have to be named. So I know plenty of people who have never felt themselves to be goal-orientated, who do their practice like the log on the river, and just naturally the benefits and the fruits just emerge. They realize the immeasurable, the vastness of things, that which is not of self, no mind, whatever. And just, as the Buddha said, gets as clear as colour is to a person with good eyesight. So some practice with a real clear named goal. Others practice with no named goal. Others get stuck in the practice, as I pointed out. Others, the practice liberates them.
What about the tendencies of the mind? Must these be removed before self-realization can become permanent? And how to remove these tendencies?
It's at this point where the teachings of the Buddha I'm a bhakti, devotion for. If we fall into the imprisonment of cause and effect, watch out. One could say, the cause which stops me from realization are the tendencies. If I remove the tendencies, the liberation will come. So the cause is the tendencies, get rid of the tendencies, and the liberation will come. Oh my God. It could take one hell of a long time. And supposing one even says, wow, look at all the tendencies I've exhibited in this very lifetime. And one says, and maybe, there could possibly be past lives. Oh my God. Have I got to work that bloody lot out before realization? It's a nightmare thinking like that. So I prefer middle way. I don't know any human being who I could put hand on heart and say she or he is every moment, all the day, all the time under the influence of their tendencies. The good, the bad and the indifferent. I have not met anybody that I could put hand and say that. So rather than this and then this, when you and I are not under the pressure of the past, the tendencies, we are just experiencing calmness, some clarity. Energy feels good. And just a natural sense of well-being. We're not being driven by one tendency or by another. No. And there's a certain absence of the tendencies. Maybe at those moments, those times, shorter lived, longer lived, a few hours, a day or two, a few minutes. Maybe in that spaciousness, when we're not in the shadow of our tendencies, might be an opportunity for some discoveries and realizations. And I'm not, therefore, putting myself under the pressure of trying to get rid of my tendencies so I can get purified, so I can get realized. Because I don't think we are under the shadow of them all the time. If, however, I look at myself, the self, where it lands, and I say, my God, I've got an incredible tendency to be really judgmental about other people. I've got a real tendency to keep putting myself down and feeling I'm no good and I'm worthless. And I notice this coming up daily. I don't seem to get a lot of space around it, or all the other tendencies. Then I want to address that. I want to look at that. And hopefully come to a bit more clarity and understanding, so that there's a little bit more space in my heart, in my consciousness, so that then I can look. And it's not that I've said to myself, wow, I've got rid of that tendency. I'll never have any more self-doubt. I've worked it out. Come on. So, not trying to make ourselves perfect. Just enough for a little space. Just enough for a little clarity. And maybe out of the space and clarity it comes, a lot of that tendency just seems like a daydream. And one wonders, well, God, I had that tendency. Now I have some realization. What happened to that tendency? The things that used to make me mad or give me sleepless nights or just seem to have gone. And sometimes people will say, I had the tendency, can't find it. Nice. Precious.
What about destiny? Do you expect things to simply happen, or are you expressing your free will and choosing?
Neither. Unmistakably neither. This dialogue is a very important one. I've engaged in, if I may say, years of reflection on this. Because it's an important question, an issue. So, for some, I can't remember what the word is for destiny in the Sanskrit. It has, in this country, too often a certain fatalism. Oh, it's your destiny. And it's the given. It has the whiff of imprisonment. It doesn't, for me personally, speak of the indefinable. It doesn't speak to me of the uncertainty or of change. It gives me the sense and feeling of something fixed in time, some absolute fixed in time. I don't see any evidence. I think events can happen, and even you and I, we could be going on, we think, this is my destiny in life. Boom, boom, whoa, what happened to this idea of destiny? Suddenly get blown away in something else. So, a little uneasy. The other much beloved reaction is free will. Choice, so beloved in the West. Choice. And the movement of choice, the manifestation of choice. Even in the most generous moments, I think it's the small details of life. So you said, oh, Christopher, I'm writing a book and like to interview you, like to film you. Could we meet at this time? This would be my choice to meet. And I say to you, oh yes, I'll come, and this is my choice. So choices are, a lot of it is small scale, if there is. The bigger challenges of life are not quite in the field of choice, like taking birth. I don't remember choosing to be born in England with my parents and going to a Catholic school and being male and having these kind of odd attributes. I don't remember choosing to have various events happen in my life which really had an impact on them, sometimes beautiful ones and sometimes ones which I much prefer didn't have. I don't remember saying, oh, I think I'll choose today that my loving partner leaves me. You know, I'll choose that my beloved teenage daughter gets pregnant, etc. I'll choose that my father smokes himself to death, etc. Both outwardly and inwardly, the major events, and even some great experiences, and sudden heart opening. Oh, I think I'll choose today a big heart opening. I think that's my choice for today. Yeah, if we said this, guy's off his supermarket trolley, etc. So we often, I would say, have exaggerated the importance of choice. Shall I buy a fawn shirt or shall I buy a darker shirt? I mean, yes, but much of it I think is trivial, small. There. When we build up, I've really got to make a decision, choice again. Shall I stay in India or shall I go elsewhere? Shall I continue doing this or not? We build it up, but in fact the choice is going away from us because it's more like dilemma, conflict, turmoil, I don't know what to do. We're calling it choice, but actually it's chaos. You can say it's a choice. So I think we need to attend to the ideology of choice, one extreme, and not switch to the other of destiny. It's just meant to be. Nothing is meant to be. It's just how it reveals itself. And between that, there's some middle way. Question number 9.
Okay. It appears essential
Essential.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. No.
To meet a master, and surrender to that master. Who is the master? What is the master's role? And how to recognize a true master?
Oh, God.
Ah.
The master. I've written quite a lot about this question. It interests me because I had to sit on the throne. The throne in England, I don't know if it's the same in the United States, the throne means what the Queen sits on or the toilet. And sitting up, so when I think sitting on the throne, you know, it's toilet is what is empty. So the master, the blessed master. I have a caution. If one's going to have a master, may he or she be dead. They don't disappoint. So the dead ones, long dead. Nobody remembers them. Better. But if one's going to go for the living master, oh, tread carefully. With any of us. What I mean, that is, where there is the master, which is a very powerful archetype, there is the student, the disciple, the devotee. The master sits with his or her privilege. Sometimes not because so our voice can carry, but I am the master. And between the devotee and the object of devotion, called the master, there is a gap. It's one hell of a gap. And in that gap, the devotee will wish to surrender to the master, which is to sacrifice one's authority, and authority comes from the Greek, like author, to create, to make happen. One sacrifices one's capacity as a human to make happen and transfers it to the master. It could be religious fascism. Could be. And the master may identify with her or his role and get a lot of self-satisfaction. I am the master, who knows? It doesn't have to be that way, clearly. It really is a question in the dynamic of the relationship. What the wisdom is of the master, what the love is. Is the intention ego feeding? Is the intention power and control? Is the intention the using of charisma in order to gain attention? Or is it really setting as many human beings totally free from the duality of the master and the disciple, and that the person emerges out of those two primary constructions which have no truth in reality? It can be a powerful, wonderful, liberating, awakening resource, or the surrender could be the new imprisonment. That's the question. It's an open question.
And who is the master?
Who is the master? It's certainly not the I. It's the truth. It's the truth. The truth is the master. And truth is that which, as it were, engages. It enters into a situation and it has a transformative impact. And the sense is that it's freeing up. The catalyst could genuinely be the dialogue of the master with the disciple. It's a construction, and it could emerge out of that. In the tradition and the approach that I have, inspired by the Buddha, he uses the concept Kalyana Mitta. It literally means good friend. What that means for me as a person, I have the privilege of the authority of the teacher. I have the privilege of exploring and practicing. I have the privilege of engaging with life and learning and making mistakes and learning again. It's a great freedom. And I have the delight and the joy of friendship. And so in my case, with that, I don't feel comfortable with the idea of followers and disciples, students and devotees. And the best way, one of the ways, is in the informality of friendship, hanging out in the chai shops, talking and meeting with people in a whole range of environments and situations which are outside of the structure. If one's just inside the structure, we who is the teacher easily can have to absorb a lot of projections on us. And we can get fixed, either in ourselves or from others. So yes, there are benefits to the master-disciple surrender. The master is the truth. If that's really remembered, I'll never confuse the master, the person, with the truth. The truth we're interested in.
And what is the master's role?
Get out of the way. Really. Meaning, sometimes some will say, I am the truth. Wait a minute. A few posters up around. Others will say, oh, it's not me, but it's the truth coming through me. I am just a vehicle, but it's coming through me, not coming through you. Through me. Wait a minute. And then, ego will always want, etc. In a way, the climate and the culture of the conventional agreement called master. Where does this Christopher saying a few words, is that the master? Is it sitting up here, that the master? Other people come and sit up here with me as well. Is that the master? So it's a convention. It's a construct. Truth doesn't travel through the master. Truth is not the master. And the master does not have truth. These are just conventions. And we're interested in the unconventional. That's all. Number 10.
Well, just one last. How to recognize a true master? You said at one point
yeah.
the master is truth. How to recognize that?
Yeah, the master is truth, but not the person who is the master. The master, truth master's like.
Because, there are many people, for example, in this town, here now, and there are many masters available.
2 criteria.
Right.
Very simple. 2 criteria. One is, one has to spend a long time directly with that person. A long time directly with that person. 2, how does that person, actually 3, how does that person handle a very difficult situation? Any idiot can be a captain on a calm sea. How does the person handle it? And 3, through the master, the person, we'll say, the teacher, will come at times the humanness, errors of judgment, foolishness, the, what should we call it, the triple horror associated with many spiritual teachers, or any of us at times. Power, money, and sex. These are the 3. Does the teacher, the master, when foolishness arises, desire, irresponsibility, errors of judgment arise, and the feedback comes from within and without, does the master or the teacher take notice and say, this is something I have to look at in my life? Then you know, master.
Traditionally, devotees had tremendous devotion to the master.
Yeah.
Please say something about devotion in the pursuit of awakening.
Very good question. In the conventions, take it from first hand, I don't consider myself a devotional person. So as an example, it's a little unfair, but it's an example. Dominica, my beautiful girlfriend, father, we went to the ashram one evening. Lots of visitors there. And in one of the main halls there was some, the sastras were being chanted. And lots of people, Indians and Westerners, sitting around on them. And it was very sweet, nice atmosphere and some incense. And Dominica said to me, shall we go inside? And my immediate response was, but I said, church. Which means, not Christopher's cup of tea at all. When they meet with various people, whoever it is in this world, I like the sense of adult to adult, person to person, man to man, mentoring, that. So I don't particularly feel I don't feel any devotion to Buddhism, to religion. I don't feel, if I may say, any devotion to church. I go to midnight mass every Christmas. Religiously I go. My daughter thinks I'm mad. And but the place of devotion, it's got its beautiful and its shadow, to use Jung here. The beautiful thing is something of the heart. When tens of thousands of people or more walking the pradakshina, the circle around the mountain, it's devotion. It's rather beautiful. And the world, it will be poorer if there's no devotion in it. And it comes from the heart, and religion cultivates it. But sometimes it's used to sustain the gap. The devotee to the object of devotion creates a separation. And that's the shadow of it. So the excess of devotion will uplift the symbol, the figure, the word. I'm British in London on the Underground. As one gets off the Underground train, a voice often comes on the loudspeaker. Mind the gap. This is my message to all devotees. Mind the gap.
But you would agree, I think, that part of this devotion opens the heart. You know?
It does.
It makes somebody available.
It does.
Yeah.
And there's something precious about it. And that's where that voice, unwavering voice of Ramana is so important. Vichara, inquiry. Don't just rest in the loving devotion. You know, when one of those sitting next to him said, I have surrendered myself out of devotion to you, Ramana. I've surrendered, and your will is my will. I've surrendered to you. You are the Bhagawan. You are the master. And Ramana said, oh, stop talking a load of rubbish. I remember being with one great Swami years ago. He was giving a public satsang. And the Swami and I was a monk. We got to know each other and we had a good exchange. So he invited me to come back for the evening to where he was staying with some other friends, have some more discussion. And one of the devotees we're actually just getting into the car. One devotee said, Swamiji, I'm so devoted to you. I love you so dearly. He said, in my whole life, Swamiji, I've never drank alcohol, Swamiji. I've never eaten any meat, Swamiji, my whole life. And Swamiji said, a pity.
Seekers often have curious ideas about the enlightened state. Please describe your typical day and how you perceive the world.
The seekers may not be the best to describe the enlightened state. Let's keep to what we know. And in reference to what was said a little earlier, in terms of a normal day for myself, it varies. In the past 35 or 36 years, the longest I've been in one place is 2 months. So it's a homeless, I have a home, but it's a homeless and wandering way of life as well. And the usual day would be not so unusual or different from anybody else. I'm a small servant of the Dharma. And strong commitment to it. I love it to bits. And I love people. I really like people. I'm 65 in a couple of months. Energy level might change tomorrow. So far, same as 25. And with the unfoldment of each day, it's time for some silence and solitude, quite a renewal, and small acts of service to others, all in the spirit of freedom of being, essentially. Yes?
You've given us a profound discourse on awakening. When you would meet someone with a passion for awakening, what would your short advice be?
Your passion is your awakening. They are not two separate events. Love the passion. Thank you.